Steps into it. Pass is caught. Diggs! Sideline!
Touchdown! Unbelievable! Vikings win it!
Strap yourself in and get ready.
Here we go! Here we go!
The leaders in fantasy football are incoming, giving you the ultimate insight to help you win your leagues and dominate your mates. You're now listening to the Insight NFL Show with your hosts, Guns and Maverick.
Welcome to the NFL. Let's go!
Let's go! Go!
How do. Welcome to the Insight NFL Show. A lovely little surprise for you there, Matt. Welcome. The Cowboys have lost. Seattle's lost as well. Matt's got a CC in a standard squeeze. Chinny cooler. Shout out to standard squeeze as always. Yeah. Welcome to another week of injuries, of ejections, and ridiculous catches. How have you seen the week?
Talking about ridiculous, that hat is fucking absurd, and you look like an absolute clown.
Yeah, like most Cowboys fans.
Yeah,
Gotcha. Yeah, well done, Nathan.
fit right in the mold of the clown boy. So you've done well there, mate. But yeah, all in all, it was a lot of carnage this week around the league. More injuries and more injuries to the better players in the league too. You know, AJ Brown went down, CD Lamb went down. Drake London went down, top of my head. And I can't really think of, there's probably more. I can't really think of any more, to be honest with you. But there's they're the three that come to my mind straight away. So if they're missing time, and it looks like probably all three of them might, well, maybe not Lamb. We'll see how he goes. He did return, but we'll see how they go, I suppose, during the week. But yeah, big casualties if they do miss time.
I mean, and you can throw into that, I suppose, to an extent, Puka Nakua, who got ejected for throwing a punch in the second quarter. Not an injury, but it's just like such an unnecessary reason to be thrown out of a game and have it cut short.
Oh, Alave was another one.
Olave, yes, he got knocked out. I imagine he's missing a fair bit of time.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think there's much point with general conversation. Let's get straight into it. Friday lunchtime. Well, 11:15. Texans, Jets. You would have thought with the 2-6 Jets going up against the 6-2 Texans that this would be a bit of a blowout game in favor of Houston. But you take out of the equation Stephon Diggs and Nico Collins. Apparently, CJ Stroud becomes Anthony Richardson, who had 11 from 30, 191 passing yards, rather, and then 8 carries for 59 yards. So basically, he's running because he can't throw.
Yeah, so it was a weird one. I did say in our Thursday show that CJ Stroud should be benched, and that was a good call in the end. But I also did say that he doesn't offer anything on the ground, and he gives us 59 yards on the ground. So it's a weird game, I suppose. But all in all, mate, it was pretty disgraceful from the Texans. Mixon cooked early. Mixon had like 18 carries at halftime, and or maybe it was 17 carries at halftime, and then saw 7 for the rest of the game. There was no way he could go 30 plus in this game. He would have been burnt out and probably killed himself or something like that. But yeah, even Tank Dell was the number one, and he bowled out finally. So good to see him. For anyone that's taken him sort of in your 6th, 7th round, he actually delivered this week as the number one, so that's good. But another one for me that was a bit disappointing, that was Dalton Schultz. Served as probably the number 2 option as a receiver, and he was a bit of a flop too. So all in all, mate, it was pretty gross from the Texans. Yeah.
No, it wasn't their greatest outing. I mean, what are you looking at there from Schultz? As you say, 3 of 6 for 21 yards, 8.1 PPR points. Oh, no, that's tight end premium, sorry. 5.1 PPR points. On the flip side of things, though, um, Aaron Rodgers supported two gun wide receivers. Garrett Wilson with 9 catches for 90 yards, 2 touchdowns, including the touchdown. It's catch of the decade because it's been like 5 years. I'm happy with that. Catch of the decade. Where is it in terms of OBJ's catch?
OBJ's was better. Just, mate, I can't get over the fact that you still look like a clown. To be honest,
This is staying on the whole time.
I can't take you seriously right now. But no, it was probably, yeah, I'd say OBJ's was probably slightly better. It was 3 fingers he caught it with, compared to Garrett Wilson's one-handed, I don't know, Air Jordan-esque sort of catch as such. But I don't know, they're 2 pretty damn good catches, so you can't really, pick one or the other. But I've got Odell if you had to pick one, mate.
Well, I think it's recency bias on my part, but I'm taking Garrett Wilson's. But I think they're very close. But we're here to talk about fantasy. Devontae Adams, 7 catches, 91 receiving yards, and a touchdown. I mean, look, if Aaron Rodgers is going to keep playing like this with the 2 stud wide receivers, one, the Jets are going to do just fine, and 2, it's going to open up some opportunities for Breece Hall down the track, I would have thought.
Are you got that tag still on that hat? Are you looking to return that tonight?
Yep. Yes, I will be. This is a rental. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it was interesting. Malachi Corley, I know this probably isn't fantasy relevant, but he's about to really, well, he probably already copped it as such, and I'm surprised he hasn't lost his job just yet, but they did draft him. But yeah, Breece Hall, mate, all in all, it was okay. He didn't really get too involved in the passing game this week, only 2 for 11. But yeah, 5 yards a carry nearly. It was pretty damn good, you'd say, but no touchdown to go along with it, so that probably hurt his fantasy score. But yeah, I thought they played pretty well, mate. And let's just see if Aaron Rodgers can build on this Garrett Wilson, Devontae Adams partnership moving forward. Or I'm interested who they play next week. I'm actually really interested to see who they play next week.
Who do they play?
It's a big game because they're at 3-6. It's huge.
They got to keep winning, yeah.
Well, they've got the Cardinals next week, so
okay, you'd think that's a win.
Well, mate, there's every chance these 2 cook again, so that's probably what I'm looking at with Devontae and Garrett. So, all in all, mate, really, really good game for the Jets, and I need this
for sure. Now let's look at your team, Dallas Cowboys. I think the usual tale is the scoreline, although it appears close, it wasn't really that close. Would I be right in saying that? Is that how you've seen the game as well?
Yeah, it wasn't close at all.
No. Obviously, the big news is that Dak Prescott went down with a hamstring injury. Is that right? I think it is. And then, of course, CeeDee Lamb's pretty banged up, but an AC joint issue, undergoing an MRI. We'll probably know a fair bit more in the morning. But let's talk about somehow I don't know, I should probably say his name, Rico Dowdle. Somehow he dominated the backfield and got, let's say 12 carries, 75 yards, 5 catches for 32 yards and a touchdown, 21.7 fantasy points. Rico Dowdle, I mean, Dalvin Cook's washed. We knew that, and he's not really an RB2 anymore. Ezekiel Elliott's going to get cut for off-field issues. If I'm a fantasy manager, I'm looking to trade for Rico Dowdle.
Well, I still don't believe that Rico Dowdle will be, well, depending on how the season goes, I'll probably just put a sock in the season and call it a year. They're probably not met the playoffs, but yeah, they still need help at running back. He was pretty good today, might I add. But that's all in all, Rico Dowdle, it's probably hasn't been like 6 yards of carries is really, it's actually a really good game, right? But he hasn't really been this player all year, to be honest. He's been involved and he had a really nice touchdown as well. He's struggled a little bit, but I don't know. I'm still looking for an upgraded RB. If I'm obviously being a Cowboys fan, I don't think he's the piece moving forward and to take the franchise to the next level. Well, they're still pretty shit, but he's not the guy, to be honest. But for the rest of the season, he might be okay. I still think Travis Etienne would be a nice pickup, but
Oh yeah, I mean, he could be Rico Dowdle could be a massive winner at the trade deadline if they don't trade for a running back because
mm,
like it's his job and there's no competition really.
no, it's
Like
not. No,
if they want to run the football, he'll run the football almost entirely on his own with some spells coming from like Hunter Lepke, the fullback, and maybe Juice Vaughn. But what I mean is like he's a 3 down back if they don't trade for anyone at the deadline, and he might be the cheapest 3 down back you can get.
yeah, possibly, especially if CD Lamb misses any time as well. That probably rises the stocks of Rico Dowdle just a little bit, but
And Dak Prescott
that might ruin him
if he misses. I mean, like
yeah,
if
well,
Dak Prescott misses,
actually, Cooper Rush is pretty good, but that was a lot of junk
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
But yeah, all in all, mate, just have to watch this space on Dak. If it's a hammy, he's getting an MRI. It doesn't sound too good, so I'd be worried about him missing some time. It could be a week or two he might miss. But CD Lamb, again, it's hard to say because he did return to the game and looked like he was okay, but obviously he's not. So one to monitor, maybe just a week or so, but it can't be too bad.
well, I agree, and I just want to bring us to this comment here. Ben on X says, "Can't believe I'm saying this, but Mav's got the better hat on." Now, first of all, this is quite a good cowboy hat, I think. I think it's just that the cowboy hat is, as you say, a clown's hat. It's absolutely ridiculous. But for a cowboy hat, outside of the tag at the back and that, it's not that bad, I think.
Mate, you look stupid.
Oh dear. All right, let's look at the other side of things. We've got Drake London, who had a receiving touchdown, spun around on his head, and then later on in the game did his hip, was it? I think it was hip.
Yeah.
So how much research we do, but did his hip, ruled out of the game. Look, if he's missing time, Darnell Mooney to the absolute moon, right?
Should be. He was very good when Drake London went out of the game. But then again, the Cowboys defense at the moment couldn't stop you. So that's just how they're going at the moment. But you say Drake London misses some time, fair enough. Even in this game, mate, the Cowboys defense has got holes in it, and Kyle Pitts had 1 for 11. That was pretty disappointing for a tight end who's really been building on this year as maybe a top tight end, possibly, but a bit of a dud game for him in this one, which is a shame. But it will be Darnell Mooney to the moon. Bijan Robinson again keeps doing what he's doing. 19 carries, 86 yards. And then in the passing game, he was massive as well. Passing game was massive as well, 759. So it could be Bijan being a top 2 running back if Drake London does miss time, because I think he'll be the biggest beneficiary from it.
Yeah. Another beneficiary, I suppose, jumping all over the place here, but back to the Cowboys. If CD Lamb misses time, Jake Ferguson, who had a pretty big game today, 7 catches on 10 targets for 71 yards. I mean, he would immediately be the top target if CD Lamb was to miss time. So that's massive if you have Jake Ferguson, because he's been a bit quiet, but all of a sudden he could have some monster weeks coming up as a high-end tight end one.
Yeah, absolutely. He'll be the go-to. But then again, if Dak misses, the offense will be pretty average. So it goes hand in hand to a degree. But then you got Tolbert there, you got Jalen Brooks there, you've got Kevontae Turpin there. Like there's a lot of options there that are pretty average, might I add. But if I was to add one, I'd probably go to Tolbert, to be honest.
Tolbert would be an interesting one because he has shown he can handle a fair amount of targets in the past. It's just whether or not, if teams are going to cover him heavily, how does he react to that? Because he's a
He'd be the
fringe
best
player.
corner. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's have a look at this game. These two teams had the same record going into it. The Broncos were 5-3. The Ravens were 5-3. Well, the scoreline was 41-10 in favor of the Baltimore Ravens. And when Denver's defense doesn't show up, it's going to be tough for them to be even competitive in games, I don't think.
Yeah, this is a weird game. Rashad Bateman came in to a really, really tough matchup, right? Like really, really tough. We thought he might see a bit of Patrick Surtain at times, but again, his motion on and movement on the offensive end is just too quick for anyone, right?
Zay Flowers or Rashad Bateman?
Sorry, Zay Flowers. Did I say Bateman? Yeah, Zay Flowers, mate. He was amazing. He was amazing. He really dominated in that first half. Had 2 touchdowns in that first half, and game script wise, didn't see much of it for the rest of the second half, I suppose. But yeah, all in all, I thought he was fantastic. And this offense just continues to be amazing, doesn't it? Like with Henry, Lamar, Bateman was still really good today, despite them receiving Deontay Johnson. Yeah, Mark Andrews was okay. This offense could be very, very scary, and probably could take it right up to the Chiefs if they can work on the defensive end a little bit.
I mean, Derrick Henry, he's apparently, I saw some stat. I think he's the first running back since 2015 to reach 1,000 rushing yards in 9 games, which is ridiculous because, like, you think about some of the seasons Derrick Henry's had in the past, you would have thought he would have gone close to doing
They
that
need
in
to
one of the
start.
prior seasons.
They need to start managing a little bit though. I know he's a bit older now and everything like that, but they need to make sure that he doesn't break down or gets an injury or anything like that because they really do need him at the pointy end. And I do think once their record gets better and better, they might start leaning on Justice Hill a little bit more, which they sort of have been to a degree already. But yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think what I've noticed during the week was that Keaton Mitchell, running back from last year, he's coming off IR. I think he will be more involved than what Henry managers will want to admit. Just because he proved enough last year that, like, he's good enough. And I think there'll be games where he might have 10 or 15 carries to Henry's 10, for example, just to rest Henry. But, like, I don't think that changes anything if you're a Derrick Henry owner. I think you just ride the hot hand because he could get you so far and so
Yeah.
far ahead of the rest of the pack in your league because he is on fire.
And in saying that, they're only 6-3, the Ravens as well. So it's not like they're
Yeah.
like 8-1 or anything like that, or 7-2. 6-3, still in that area where you still need to keep playing your best players and obviously trying to maybe, they're probably out of that first round bye now. They're 3 games behind the Chiefs. You'd imagine that it's sort of getting a bit out of hand. But yeah, to try and get like home ground advantage throughout the playoffs would be the obviously the go for them. But yeah, I am a bit worried about Derrick Henry and if not so much him as a player, but obviously he's fantastic. But 23 carries every game nearly is getting pretty excessive for a guy who is getting on in age a little bit, 29 now. So
Now they have been subtly managing him. Like you look back at the last couple of weeks, like 11 carries, then 15 carries. So like they are managing him a bit, but regardless, I still agree. Like they have a week
especially the way
14
he
bye.
plays.
They have a week 14 bye as well, which suits them. But as the way he plays, you just want to be careful with him. On the Denver Broncos side, it was Cortland Sutton, end of list in terms of players we're going to talk about. He
Bo
had
Nix is pretty good.
well, he had a receiving touchdown, I suppose.
Yeah.
Cortland Sutton threw 1 pass for 2 yards and a touchdown, but also had 100 receiving yards on 7 catches. Now, I mean, there's not much to talk about there in terms of Cortland Sutton. But Denver are going to have some games like this. I think their record was a bit inflated for where they are actually at.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And look, game script wise, they were just trying to do something, right? They moved away from the run game. Javonte Williams is, I don't know. I watch him play and he just looks like 100 years old sometimes, doesn't he? He looks like a really old player that's been in the league for 10 years. He looks so slow.
Mm.
I just feel like my TV is stuck on slow-mo every time I watch him play. But yeah, no, Cortland Sutton was the biggest beneficiary of the game script, obviously. But also one to watch who has been getting more and more involved. He won't be fantasy relevant, but will be fantasy relevant in Dynasty. Is Troy Franklin? I know he had 1 for 19, but he's starting to get targeted a bit more and playing a bit more now. So let's see if he can break out as the year goes along. And obviously it's a deeper shot, but yeah, he'd be in a lot of Dynasty leagues as well. So I think he's one to monitor for the next sort of 2, 3, 4 weeks to see how we can sort of get involved in this offense because he's seeing more time.
I agree, and I'll follow on from the dynasty theme here. Audric Estime, he had 5 carries, 35 yards. They're starting to
Yeah.
work him back into it, but they really like him at Denver. They really do view him as their big bruising back, someone who can handle a bulk workload eventually. But I mean, if they're not satisfied with Javonte at the end of the season, the Broncos, they'll just cut him loose and they'll give Estime a go next year. So
I think
and
Javonte's on. I think he's on
I
borrowed time.
I think he's on borrowed time. I think it will be Estime next year. And if I'm in a dynasty league, I'm looking to trade for Estime, and he'll cost a bag of chips right now. Like, how
Mm.
can someone justify, even in a dynasty league, how can someone justify um, paying a lot or even a third round pick for Audric Estime? You probably can't.
Yeah,
So
look, probably not. But
I
again,
think,
they might go
yeah,
draft one too. You just never know.
you never know, and that's sort of what I mean in the sense that they could draft a running back, you could be
They're
stuffed.
making a
So
change.
they're making a change. It won't be Javonte. I don't think Jaleel McLaughlin's a RB1 in this league, but I do think Estime could be.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's too much future chat. Well, that's enough future chat for that game. Dolphins Bills 30-27. This was a heck of a fourth quarter and just a heck of a game, really. Like Tua Tagovailoa, he only had 3 incomplete passes the entire game. He played really well.
Mm.
You also had Devon A-Chain, who went nuts again, still continuing that theme of what we talked about last week. With Tua there, he is the RB1. He had
Yeah.
12 carries. Yeah, sorry. No, you go. You go.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. And as you said, it's more especially in the passing game. Like obviously
Yeah.
in the running game, he's obviously solid, like 5 yards a carry and a touchdown. That's fine. But it's in the passing game where he just magic, really. Had another receiving touchdown today, had 8 catches. He's really starting to, RB1, not of just obviously the team, but maybe even the bloody competition. So he's on that border at the moment, isn't he? Really starting to tilt. When Tua's healthy, he's definitely top 3.
Imagine if you traded for him when
I
Tyler
tried.
Huntley and Skylar Thompson were the quarterbacks.
I tried.
You'd be laughing. You would be laughing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tried to, couldn't get it, but like
Yeah.
you'd be dead set because it was touch and go whether Tua would actually ever come back.
Mm.
And let's look on the flip side. If Tua doesn't come back, A-Chain's and this Dolphins offense is not even anywhere near where it is right now.
Yeah. Also,
Um,
mentioning on the Dolphins, I want to mention that obviously my giveaway during this game was the Tyreek Hill, him scoring only the 12 points. So Arson Dragons got the win there. He guessed the old 12.9. So well done to him. It's on the way. We've been ordered as such. So well done to him. He owes me a couple of beer selfies in the pool, I believe. So that's all well and good. I hope he's got jocks on. Hopefully it's PG rated.
oh,
But well done to him.
there's some good opportunity there if Arson Dragon takes the initiative. You could really give Matt a good fright. Um, Well, I suppose we did talk about Tyreek Hill. He didn't really have the stat line I thought he was going to have in this game. I get it was against Buffalo, but I thought Tua was well and truly back. I think we might see a big game from Tyreek Hill. We didn't
Mm,
really, did we? And we didn't see
no.
a big game from any of the receivers.
No. Can you tell me how this has happened? I'm just looking at the stats. I don't know if this is right or wrong, but how does Jalen Waddle have 2 receptions for minus 4 yards and a touchdown?
Well, so I believe his receiving touchdown would have been for I think it was 27 years. Oh no, it would have been 19 yards. He had a 19-yard receiving touchdown. And then on the last play of the game,
Oh, yes. The
the
laterals.
ball went all the way back and on the laterals, and he lost 23 yards.
No fucking way.
Yes.
No way.
Yes, he did. That's
That's
how he lost.
insane.
Well, there's a similar stat like that coming up in the Washington Commanders New York Giants game, but I won't ruin that. But yeah, that's how he got to 2 catches for minus 4 yards and a touchdown.
Fuck. You'd be bleeding if that was the difference.
Imagine losing, like you're sitting there and you're thinking, "Gee, I think I'm just going to win, just win this league, just about win this league," and you lose 2.3 points at the final play of the game just because they're trying something. You'd be spewing. Now, on the flip side, on the Buffalo Bills, um, it's a grim day when you see Mac Hollins with the leading amount of PPR points for the Buffalo Bills. And that's not to say that Khalil Shakir wasn't involved. He just didn't have a touchdown. Mac Hollins had 5 catches for 30 yards and a touchdown. Um, and then, well, Ray Davis, the supposed um, early down back, had 2 catches for 70 receiving yards and a receiving touchdown.
It
I didn't see how that play eventuated, but I mean, look,
was a
it's a
broken
shame that
play.
it's a broken play. There you go. It's a shame that these things aren't going towards James Cook, though.
Yeah, he was a bit of a he wasn't really that good today. For fantasy score wise. Still, 10 carries for 44 yards, so 4.5 yards carry isn't too bad. But we're used to James Cook getting north of 15 carries and breaking one out for a 20-yarder or a 30-yard gain, even a touchdown as such, and just didn't happen. So, yeah, unfortunate there. But yeah, pretty gross, mate. They had no Amari Cooper. He missed this week with a wrist injury. So you're right about the coaching role. He's now the offensive coordinator. And Keon Coleman was obviously taking the best corner this week, and he was a massive, massive dud. He's probably more suited to take the number 2 and dominate, but the number 1 seat at this point of his career seemed like it's a massive stretch. But hey, he's still a good player, and I still like the projection of him moving forward. But at this point of his career, he just can't take the best corner.
No.
But yeah, all in all, mate, the ball was just spread around. Josh Allen did what he needed to do, and Tyler Bass ended it with a 61-yard field goal that killed him. And yeah, pretty fun game.
Yeah, I mean, there was a point there I was like, it's Tyler Bass. He's not really a clutch kicker, but he did his thing. He did really well. What was it? Was it a big field goal? It was like 57 yards. That's not
Yeah,
really big for
61.
them nowadays. 61. There you go. That's a heck of a kick.
Oh yeah,
And we better check Dalton Kincaid. Yeah, pretty
pretty average,
quiet. He
man.
did have 10 targets, interestingly,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
only
but 4 for
converted
32.
that. Yeah, it's not great.
Yeah, I've been a bit
Um,
disappointed in
yeah.
Dalton Kincaid this season, to be honest. I haven't really been up and about him. Um, as I said, he was a sleeper for me coming into the year as a number 1 tight end, and hasn't eventuated at all. Hasn't really even had a big week, I don't believe yet. Like a real breakout week where you go, shit, he's going to score 20 plus points, but which is a big week for a tight end, let's be honest. But yeah, haven't seen that yet, mate, and I'm a bit disappointed about that.
Yeah, I don't know if we are going to see it from him this year, if we haven't already.
Mm.
It's just the way sometimes tight ends develop. They can take a little while. Um, I'm not panicking on him in Dynasty, but
No.
It'd be nice if he came along a bit quicker.
Yes.
Let's look at the Saints and the Panthers. Now, this game has led to the Saints losing 7 in a row.
Mhm.
The Carolina Panthers, off the back of Bryce Young, have won 23-22. Bryce Young, he wasn't half bad today. Again,
Yeah.
he's much better this time around for the benching, I feel.
Yeah, and he had an interception that went on his name that wasn't his fault either. That one on Leggett, where Leggett had two hands on the ball but didn't hit the ground, and the corner just snatched it out of his hand in pretty much midair. It was a really nice
Yeah.
interception, but that's not Bryce Young's fault. That's on Leggett. So unfortunately, that goes down as an interception on Bryce Young, which is pretty rough. But yeah, no, good game for him. He still didn't have any receivers apart from Leggett, and still got it done. So that's pretty damn good. He was okay. I mean, what, 6 of 26, 170 yards and a touchdown. Yeah, it's not too bad. It's better than what he showed. So now let's see how they go. I know Chuba Hubbard had a big game today, 15 for 72 and 2 touchdowns, but Jalen Brooks,
Or Jonathan Brooks.
sorry, is back next week. So I don't know what to expect there. Is it going to be a committee 50-50 split, 75-25 in terms of Chuba Hubbard? It's going to be interesting. Or is it just going to be a let's let Brooks just work? But I don't know, man. It's a hard one. I think they ease him into the year.
I think they do too. I think you won't see Jonathan Brooks even get to a 50% workload until maybe week 10, week 11. Well, yeah, week 11, week 12, sorry.
I was going to say week 10 next week.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you. But because Chuba Hubbard's been good.
Yes.
And unless by some sheer miracle he's traded at the deadline, I think I think it'll be a split backfield.
Yeah.
In saying that, that could have been their plan all along. Let's boost Hubbard's value before the deadline and move him on. Because that would have worked. I'm sure if Dallas found out that Hubbard was available, they'd probably go for him.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, but so I don't know. He's played well, but I don't know if that's we're happy to have you in a committee with Jonathan Brooks, or we're just trying to boost your trade value. It could be either
Also,
way.
I just want to mention as well on the other side of things, there was a bit of controversy going into that Olave hit, with that Derek Carr situation. Olave knocked out cold. There was sort of rumors circulating that they reckon it's Derek Carr's fault and it's a hospital pass. I'm on the border with that. I think it was a pretty big hit, and Xavier Woods really made no attempt to, really ease up or anything like that. It was a pretty poor pass. Don't get me wrong. It was over his head, but not. Yeah, Derek Carr never made him accelerate into the defender. I think the defender just had one aim, and that was to hit and hit hard.
Oh yeah, it's a shame that he's had another concussion. In saying that, I don't know if the Guardian cap prevents it though.
Not at that sort of speed.
Well, yeah, or just I don't know.
It was a shame.
There's a bit to it, but
I think he's going to miss multiple weeks with Olave, especially with his injury history of concussions. I think he's had one every year for the past 5 years. So
he's at 5, yeah.
Yeah, and he had a scare at the start of the year, which wasn't actually a concussion, but it was a head hit as such. So, yeah, he's probably going to miss a couple of weeks minimum, probably 3 is probably about right. It's a shame because he's very talented. And just when he starts to get going, he had a really big week last week. He goes out injured again. So, it's a shame. But this offense moving forward, they've got no Shaheed, they've got no Olave. So guess who's going to be carrying the offense, mate?
He's going to finish RB1. He's actually going to finish RB1.
Not if he has 30 carries a game, because today he had 29 carries.
Well, maybe, but he'll have 12 catches. He's just got to get through 10 games.
That's the problem.
He's there.
That's the problem, though. When he's carrying a rib and a hand injury,
I think he's over the rib injury, they were saying. It's the hand that's bothering him now.
But you know what I mean? You're having 29 carries in a game, and you're going to be fed. You're going to be fed.
You're either fed on the ground or in the air. Either way, I think he's getting to 30 touches a game, maybe 35. It's going to
And
be ridiculous.
and
I'm so looking forward to it.
it's also a little bit different. Like obviously when they had Derek Carr out for those few weeks and they had the backups in, it was a completely different offense, even with Olave in because the QB sucked. So now you have no receivers and you have Derek Carr. So at least Derek Carr will make you on it. Will make defenses honest, right? Like, he'll still throw the ball and he'll still try and make some plays himself. So you still have to like pay some attention to him. But at the same time, Alvin Kamara is going to have you won't have a stacked box to work against. That's A, and B, he'll be heavily involved in the passing game to go along with it. So, and especially now with no what's his name? Who's that? No Jamal Williams today, and no Kendra Miller too. So he's back on IR. So it's really just Alvin Kamara and Taysom Hill.
Oh, I'm so looking forward to it. I'm just looking forward because I've got maybe 7 or 8 Alvin Kamara shares, which I'm sure doesn't surprise you.
It
I'm
doesn't.
just going to be seeing 20 plus fantasy points for him every week for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
I'm here for it. Far
Who do you
out.
think the biggest beneficiary is? If you had to pick someone on the Saints offense as a receiver, who's the biggest beneficiary?
Juwan
Do you reckon it's
Johnson?
MVS maybe? MVS gets involved more in the passing game, or Bub Means? Like who do you think might?
Well, Bub Means is on IR as well,
Oh, is he? I missed that one.
and Kendra Miller. They're both
Cedric
on
Wilson.
IR. So it's Cedric Wilson, Marquez Valdez Scandling, or I don't know how to say his name, or like it's genuinely Juwan Johnson and Foster Moreau. Like I think it's the tight ends that Derek Carr will be throwing to a fair bit.
Okay.
If it's not Alvin Kamara in my mind is RB1 and wide receiver 1. But like it's oh man, it's going to be a freaking field day for Alvin Kamara now. Now let's look at this other game here. Am I actually reading that? Yeah, I am reading that correctly. Okay, I didn't realize Desmond Ritter was on the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah, he just signed a couple weeks ago.
Well, he also threw a passing touchdown today, and became the quarterback ahead of Gardner Minshew during the game.
He did have a fumble too.
Gardner Minshew got benched for Desmond Ritter. That is a career low. So Desmond Ritter, I suppose, is currently the starter. And he had 11 for 16, 74 yards and a touchdown. And then Gardner Minshew, prior to getting benched, 10 of 17 for 124 yards. And a fumble for Gardner Minshew? Was the fumble for Gardner Minshew, yeah.
It was rough. It wasn't really his fault, but it sort of was, I suppose. It was between him and DJ Turner, I think it was he was sort of feeding him on the way through, but on the handoff there, it was just grim. It was really grim. But in saying that though, right, Gardner Minshew was 10 of 17 for 124 yards, right? Why wouldn't they just let him air it out and go, mate, just fucking do something? Because Desmond Ritter came in and did exactly that, like 16 attempts on 74 yards. Why wouldn't you just let Gardner Minshew for 3 quarters just air it out?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, 10 to 17, 124 isn't that bad.
Yeah. There must be more behind that. They must actually think that they've got something with Desmond Ritter, which is stupid.
They don't.
But that's the only thing I can think of.
Well,
that they just want Desmond Ritter.
They're sitting at 2-7, so they're going QB in the draft.
Oh, it's Shedeur Sanders. Like in my mind, it's Shedeur or it's freaking Carson Bank or Milrow. Like I think it's one of those 3. But they might just be saying, look, if Ritter's not half bad, it's not a particularly strong QB class. Like there's question marks over Milrow and Beck, and who knows how Shedeur Sanders translates to college without his dad there, or Travis Hunter. So there's still some question marks over Shedeur. So they might just be thinking, look, if Ritter can get us through for 1 or 2 years, 1 or 2 years, and let's see if a high caliber talent pops up at some point. But otherwise,
you know what?
In terms of the rest,
really grim. Sorry. So probably last night I dropped Zamir White in our league insight. I had enough of Zamir White, held on for him for too long, and thought maybe he might come back in and like see some more carries again because Madison's okay, but he's not the future. Amir Abdullah is now more involved. He had 4 carries, did nothing. But Zamir White, right? He had that first, I think it was the first quarter rushing touchdown as a goal line. As it was actually it's a goal line rush, but he went in through and touched, and I'm thinking, oh fuck, why did I drop Zamir White? Like now he's getting goal line carries. He's involved in the offense. He might see 15 carries in this game, but then he saw 6 carries for 10 yards. So he's been exactly what we thought for the remainder of for the start of this season. He's very inefficient with his touches. He just goes down on first contact every single time.
I don't understand how he was good in this. How he could do what he did at the last 4 games of last season, and then come out and pull this crap.
It's crazy because in my dynasty leagues, I was like coming into the year, I was very high on Zamir White. I was surprised I got him in the 7th round in our League of Insight. I was close to like trading picks and high end picks might have had for Zamir White. Like I was thinking about trading a first rounder for him, and the guy was like, "Nah, I'm gonna hold Zamir White. I want to see what he's gonna be." And lucky he said no because seriously, it would have been the biggest disaster. I was massive on him, man. I thought those last few weeks of last year he was fantastic, and I thought coming into the year, he could be exactly what Josh Jacobs was last year. But, mate, he's been anything but, and that is a grim running back room.
It's a grim room, and they're going to – not only they're going to have to draft a quarterback, they're going to have to draft a running back. I think maybe it's overreactionary, but there's an equal chance that they go quarterback.
They need everything.
There's an equal chance they go quarterback or Ashton Genty in the draft next year. Like, because they'll have an early enough pick. They'll have an early enough pick where Ashton Genty will be there. They can just take him. Like, I understand, they need a quarterback. But, like, at the very least, you need a running back because they don't have that at all. Like, you need a running back to at least compensate.
I've heard rumors they might trade Max Crosby, and that's their whole team right there is Max Crosby. So, like, this is what I mean. It's just a bad franchise. I'm surprised I scored 24 points in this game against a real average defense. And speaking of which, the Bengals. Now, Joe Burrow, right, looked fantastic against a defense who's not too bad. Like, they're honest, right? And he had the 5 passing touchdowns, but that one interception, that pick 6 that he threw was fucking gross. I don't know what he was thinking there. It was like a sideways pass that went like pretty much like it didn't go anywhere, and you could read it like a book. And I think it was Jack Jones. I think it was just read it like a book. It was gross, but no Zach Moss today. Chase Brown went berserk. 27 carries, 120 yards, 4.5 yards a carry, and also had a receiving touchdown as well. So he went big. But when you score 41 points in the game, right, you'd expect Jamar Chase to be like, you think Jamar Chase has gone off for 100 plus yards and got 2 touchdowns. 7 for 43.
Well, that's because the true wide receiver one, Mike Gesicki, stood up with 5 catches for 100 yards and 2 receiving touchdowns.
Yeah, it was odd. And I do believe, I'm a big believer of this, and I've been saying this for a while, but I do believe that Jamar Chase, like, he needs T. Higgins, man. He needs T. Higgins. I don't know why he can't perform with no T. Higgins, but he's a much better player when T. Higgins is out there rather than not.
It's because he can't handle the double team, really.
And that's half the reason, too, of course.
As well.
But you know what I mean? Like, he just needs T. Higgins playing. He just needs him. And he just goes to a next level when T. Higgins plays. It's crazy. And you can't play him one-on-one, to be fair. So that's why they send the 2 guys over across to try and beat him. But
now let's see. Got a question here. Who sucks more, Zamir White or Anthony Richardson?
The Cowboys hat you're wearing.
Oh, well, there you go. That's there's your answer. The Cowboys hat. I'm saying Zamir White just because, like, there's no hope for him now. There's at least something for Richardson in the future, but there's nothing for Zamir White. Like, there's no excuse of him being raw or young or the O line. Like, the O line's solid enough. He's just bad.
They both are.
Well, I think that's enough of that game. Brock Bowers did his thing as always.
Yeah.
Saved by a late touchdown, but hey,
fantasy points.
As long as we get the touchdown, doesn't matter when.
Mm.
Chargers, Browns, the duality of Jameis Winston. I mean, we talked about it. We talked about when he first got the start. He can do it all. Last week, he had 27 completions on 41 attempts for 324 passing yards and 3 passing touchdowns. This week, he's 26 completions on 46 attempts for 235 passing yards, 1 passing touchdown, and 3 interceptions. Now, Cleveland have the bye next week. I don't know, like, obviously James is going to be the starter for the season, but like, as if you own Cleveland Browns assets, you're going to have to take the good with the bad. That's just the way it is when they've got him at quarterback. Let's
Agreed.
say for example, Cedric Tillman, right? He didn't have a touchdown until very late in the fourth quarter. He did have 6 catches on 11 targets for 75 yards and a touchdown. That touchdown came ridiculously late, though, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. And it was lucky to be a touchdown. It got reviewed, overturned. It was borderline, but whatever. But yeah, all in all, mate, if there was a market, we were talking about this in our Thursday show. If there was a market for an anytime interception, we would have put money on Derwin James. I don't know if you saw the exact play, but some of these safeties and some of these cornerbacks, right? They have the worst hands I've ever seen. Like, how can you blankly have 2 hands on it and still drop it? Derwin James did it. It went through his arms, hit him in the chest, and just trickled onto the ground. It was pretty gross.
So you're telling me that Jameis should have had 4 picks?
Yeah, he should have. Mate, honestly, it was. I can't explain how bad that was. But yeah, all in all, mate, it's pretty gross. Like Nick Chubb, 15 carries for 39 yards. Like he's seeing a bulk of the work, but he can't really do anything with the touches. If that's injury aside or if that's just sort of getting back into the swing of things, I'm not too sure. Jerome Ford did play 2 carries only for 5 yards, so he's pretty much phased completely out of the offense. But yeah, even though Cedric Tillman did have that game today, I was really, really disappointed that Njoku only had 5 for 29. I was expecting a big game from Njoku. I was expecting him to be, well, a top tight end maybe moving forward for the remainder of the season. And yeah, it was disappointing. But you know what? I will give Chargers a bit of credit. They do have a really solid defense.
Well, as I keep saying, take the good with the bad. It can be volatile. That's just the way it will be with Jameis at quarterback. You look at Elijah Moore. Like he still saw tons of targets, but only made it into 3 catches for 28 yards. Jerry Jeudy 7 catches on 11 targets for 73 yards. Like last week, all those blokes had touchdowns. This week, Cedric Tillman got one in the fourth quarter with like less than 2 minutes to go or something like that.
Yeah.
Or around that. On the flip side of things, J.K. Dobbins, he had another big game. 14 carries, 85 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns, and a couple of catches for 20 yards. And as well, Quentin Johnston, 4 catches for 118 receiving yards and a touchdown. Quentin Johnston, he's going to have a game every now and again, it seems.
Well, I'm happy that the offense has sort of leaned off the run game a lot more. I've said this the last couple of weeks, but 14 carries out of J.K. Dobbins is fine. Vidal 5 carries is fine. So what? 19 carries out of your running backs, completely fine, right? Justin Herbert, again, been battling injuries to start the year, but looks like he's sort of overcome that now. 18 of 27 for 282 and 2 touchdowns. This is what I want to see more out of the Chargers, is using Herbert more because he's extremely talented. Big, huge Quentin Johnston. He was, again, 4 for 118. I think he's a risky play still. Obviously, you roster him, sure, but to start him moving forward,
he'll be all over the place.
It's a real, it's a hard play, right? Same with Josh Palmer, mate. If he didn't have that broken play, he would have had a dud score too. I don't know if you saw his touchdown, but it was, again, another broken play where they've gone out to I think it was the McConkey they took the attention into, and somehow Palmer was left alone in the end zone. So, it's just one of those things. And McConkey, if he had a touchdown, he would have had a massive day. But 5 for 64 is still pretty good too. So, all in all, mate, I think this Chargers team, they go to 5-3. They're sneaky going all right.
They are going all right. I don't think there's much more to add to that. So let's look at the Commanders and the Giants. I want to quickly start you off with a stat here, Maverick. At halftime, let me get the stat here. It's a heck of a. I believe Daniel Jones had 4 completed passes for 0 yards and a passing touchdown. There you go. You can see the
Right.
clock sticking over. It was I don't have the sequence of how it all occurred, but it was a bit stupid in that regard. Like at halftime, he had that exact that stat line, which is a bit. Well, it's a reflection on how the Giants have played, I suppose. It's just
Mm.
somehow they put something on the board every game, but the way they get there is always pretty ugly.
Yeah.
Tyrone Tracy solid today, 16 carries, 66 yards. Would have liked to have seen a bit more receiving work, but like there was only one throw 2 running backs the entire day for the Giants. So that wasn't their game plan. The game plan was to pepper Malik Neighbors as always. He saw 11 targets, 9 catches, 59 yards. Um, wasn't a great day offensively for the Giants, but I can only assume that their defense was, well, it was okay, but to get to 22 points, they must have done something.
Well, mate, all I can say is that Daniel Jones finally has a touchdown in MetLife.
There you
It's
go.
been 650 days or something like that, and he's finally broken that curse. So well done to Daniel Dimes. But no, it was playing catch up for pretty much the whole game, mate. The scoreline looks a lot better than what it was. They were down for the whole game. The game was over pretty quick, but they managed to score some junk time scores and make it sort of semi-competitive. What I will say though, on the other side of things, is Terry McLaurin, right? He came into the week as a sort of a borderline wide receiver 1, high end wide receiver 2. He had 2 catches, but he had 2 touchdowns, and
Red zone threat.
both happened in the first half, and it just wasn't required for the rest of the game. So that was interesting. Brian Robinson was a late scratch. He was questionable coming into the game. He was scratched probably about, I don't know, half an hour, 45 minutes before the game. And I started Eckler in any leagues I had Eckler because I knew he'd do all right. And he was fine, mate. Had the rushing touchdown, was involved with some passing work as well. So I think he scored like 15 fantasy points in the end, which is solid.
Yeah, it's solid. Chris Rodriguez was a bit more involved than I thought he would be. 11 carries, 52 yards. I thought if anyone was going to take carries off him, it would be Jeremy McNichols, but
He sort of did
I mean,
too, though. He
Eckler,
had 8.
he did, yeah. I mean, Eckler still was involved, and it was still sort of a vintage. Not vintage is a strong word, but a typical Austin Eckler Chargers game where he doesn't have a massive amount of carries, but he'll still get yourself a touchdown and some decent yardage, and he'll still be prominent in the passing game.
And
So
rips out the guitar.
yeah, So it's just the way that Eckler play. Nothing out of the ordinary there. I think I can confidently say Devin Singletary is being phased out of that offense for the
Oh,
Giants.
yeah.
It's the Tracy show. Yeah. I mean, I thought last week might have been a fluke. No, he's RB2 now, Singletary. He's
And
not.
especially when Tyrone Tracy came into the week, he cleared the concussion protocol, but there was still a question mark on his health. He wouldn't have been 100%, you wouldn't imagine, but, who is at this point of the year? But again, yeah, it was Tyrone Tracy. He had 16 carries, 4 yards per carry. He was fine. But then again, Singletary was all right too. He had 7 for 33, so yeah, 4.7 yards per carry as well. So he was okay too. But it really is the Tyrone Tracy show at the moment.
I can't tell you how happy that makes me feel. Anyway, um, oh, this is brilliant. Okay, Patriots Titans. It was 20 points to 17. I don't know if you saw
Hmm.
the finish to regulation time from Drake May. I counted he had roughly or just under 11 seconds from his O line on that final play. And
Eh,
he threw the miracle ball, and the miracle ball landed in the arms of Ramondre Stevenson. And Your Love Will Go On by Celine Dion was playing in my head as soon as he caught that ball. I won't sing it for the sake of our listeners' ears, but wow. I mean, it was a grim game leading up to that for Drake May. It still probably was. Like, it's not great when you have 41 attempts and throwing for 206 yards and 2 picks, but he did have nearly 100 rushing yards. I'm getting a sense that Drake May is just Vanilla Vic, aka Daniel Jones 2.0, but with a better arm, of course.
yeah, probably. Again, I'll take nothing out of his game until I see some competent receivers and a competent offensive line too. So at this point in time, Drake May is just playing reps for the sake of it, which is completely fine. But you just hope he doesn't get hurt by doing this. Um, but yeah, when you've got like Hunter Henry is their best option offensively through the air, like it's pretty bad when you say it like that.
Mm.
But yeah, I can't believe that last play. He had 11 seconds. And look, if you looked on the replay, I reckon you'd find at least multiple holding calls. They do it like how can you hold him down for 11 seconds in the NFL? Like you saw it last week with the Commanders. There was multiple holding plays there. I don't know. If you look back at it, I reckon you'd find one. But yeah, it's an interesting game, mate. It was we came into the week thinking this is going to be the worst game of the week, but actually ended up being one of the better ones,
Yeah.
which is weird. But
Oh,
from a fantasy perspective, it was pretty grim on the Patriots end. But I will say Tony Pollard, 28
oh,
carries for 128 yards. I actually thought he'd miss. Um, he didn't practice all week with that foot injury.
mm.
Questionable coming in. I thought he'd be certain to miss, and he ended up playing. He's probably unlucky that I don't know if you saw, but he had a rushing touchdown that was called back. I think it was Westbrook.
Keno or something.
Yeah, he was holding on the edge there, but um, it was a really nice cut he made too, and probably deserved the touchdown. But it was a slight hold brought back. So if you're a Pollard owner, you probably owed about 8 points on that play. It was massive.
Yeah, and that would have taken him to pardon me, a monster fantasy game. Like he had 18.4 as it is. You throw in that rushing touchdown, you're at 24s and then probably around 25 in the end.
Yeah,
It's not quite a fantasy relevant question, but if you're the coach of the Tennessee Titans, are you rolling with Mason Rudolph or Will Levis for the rest of the season?
I think I'm going with Mason Rudolph. Um, Yeah, probably. Look, you're probably in a situation where you're 2-6, you're 1-6 coming into the week, right? So you're probably looking in that direction of drafting another QB. It's probably where they're probably at. Um, so yeah, I'd probably roll with Mason Rudolph for now, mate. See what he can do. You haven't got much to work with. I mean, you've got Calvin Ridley, and that's it. So well, obviously Pollard too, but I'm talking about through the air.
Mm.
So you haven't really got much to work with. But I'd run with the hot hand, mate. See what Rudolph can do. You can always turn back to Levis at any point. So
Yeah, because reason I say that is because Mason Rudolph had a solid day today.
he did.
20 of 33, 240 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. Sure, there was a pick, and then a few carries for 20 odd yards. But I think when you look at Rudolph, he's a more experienced guy. He's not going to have as many of these dumb plays like Levis has had.
Yeah.
Sure, he's probably playing in his max potential right now, Mason Rudolph, but I think you're not playing at this point for the Tennessee Titans. You're not playing to be a playoff contender. You're playing
Well,
just to consolidate picks.
if Will Levis didn't have his 2 brain fades at the start of the year, they would have been 4-4 and probably right at the cusp. So, yeah, it's one of those things, right? Like you're not far off, but you're not quite there. So, yeah, it's probably on Levis's first couple of games where he really just made some bonehead plays and fucked it for him, really.
Yeah. Oh, I hope Will Levis starts just for an entertainment perspective, but in reality, it should be
It
good
should be right
old.
off.
It should be rid off. Now, this was a weird game. The Chicago Bears and the Arizona Cardinals. Now, Caleb Williams only just completed 50% of his passes for 217 yards. Furthermore to this, um, Kyler Murray didn't have a passing touchdown, only 3 for 150 receiving passing yards. Yet somehow the Cardinals made their way to 29 points. Now, that was off the back of Amari DiMercado
Yeah.
having a big rushing touchdown, Trey Benson also having a rushing touchdown, and Trey McBride having a rushing touchdown. Now, there's one name there that you'll notice I missed, and that was James Conner. There were 3 rushing touchdowns from the Arizona Cardinals. James Conner couldn't get a single one, even with 18 carries.
Yeah. I mean, 6 yards a carry average as well. So,
Hmm.
he was still
He
really
wasn't
good.
bad.
Yeah, he was still really good. But yeah, it's a bit of a surprise when you say it like that, isn't it? Those 3 players have a rushing touchdown and James Conner doesn't. It's always a massive surprise. And keep in mind, the Bears defense is actually pretty solid too. And they put 29 points on them, looked pretty comfortable. But Kyler Murray did not. Well, he was okay, 13 for 20 for 154. Again, they were winning for majority of the game anyway. So game script wise, they could just keep jamming it down their throat. And didn't need to use Marvin Harrison and didn't need to use Trey McBride in the passing game or anything like that. So yeah, great game script wise, it probably doesn't tell you the true story of what could have happened. But yeah, on the ground they killed him, right?
Absolutely killed them. I'm gonna have a quick shout out to our
This man was a bona fide scrub. He can't play. No disrespect whatsoever, but I'm sorry to tell everybody the truth.
that would be Marvin Harrison this week. He had 2 catches for 34 yards in a game where they put on 29 points.
That's
It's
twice this
harsh.
year.
It's harsh, but it's fair. Marvin Harrison, you are a bona fide scrub for the week. Now, on the flip side, a fellow top 10 rookie receiver who wasn't a bona fide scrub, Rome Odunze, 5 catches, 104 receiving yards. Led the team in receiving yards, led the team in catches, I believe. DJ
Yep.
Moore somehow had the stat line of a wide receiver 3 today.
Mm.
Well, then he actually he had the identical stat line to Keenan Allen. So that's maybe calling him a wide receiver 3 is harsh, but yeah, it was not a pretty day for. Cole Kmet had nothing, no targets, no catches, and he was fit to play. He just did not see the ball at all.
I'm
So
extremely worried about DJ Moore moving forward. Now, this is 2 matchups in a row now, the Commanders and the Cardinals, that are really borderline crap defenses or crap secondaries as such, where everyone else has been able to pretty much not so much expose them, but at least damage them. And DJ Moore has not been involved in back-to-back weeks. I only had 9 targets today, so they tried to get him involved as such. But, I mean, when you have 4 catches for 33 yards, and what do you have last week? 2 for 20, I think it was last week, whatever it was, or maybe 3 for 20, whatever it was. I'm seriously concerned. Now, they've got the best rest of season schedule for wide receivers. So, all in all, it's a favourable schedule. But DJ Moore isn't lighting the world on fire, and neither is this offense, might I add. It's very inconsistent. The offensive line's very, very shaky. It doesn't give Caleb Williams enough time to work with. And Caleb Williams has been pretty average, might I add, too, when he's had the time in the pocket to make a play. He's experiencing a lot of growing pains in the league, too. So it's crazy to say that Swifts might be their best offensive weapon.
Who would have thought the man that was averaging 1.6 yards per carry and was destined to be cut is now their best player on offense? That's the NFL for you. Now, let's move on from that one. Oh, actually, we haven't even looked at the Cardinals. Uh, have we looked at the Cardinals enough? Probably.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah. Okay. Trey McBride had a solid game. That was all I was really going to say. Jaguars, Jags, whatever, however you like to say that name, and the Eagles, 28-23. There was a point in this game, I'm going to say it was 9 minutes remaining in the third quarter, where Philly were in the red zone and they were 22-0 up. I don't know how they bottled that from there, or nearly bottled it from there, rather, but they won. The Jags are now 2-7. I don't know what they're rebuilding for because they've got the team to win. I suppose their defense is probably what they're tanking for now. But they're going to need to have a really thorough look back at what went wrong. And I think you start with maybe a bit of volatile quarterback play this season. Like Lawrence had a pretty solid season, but he's had a couple of rough games, and when he's been bad,
Yeah.
he's been pretty bad. So today's another example of that. But just completed over 50%, two interceptions, only 169 passing yards. Now, he did have two rushing touchdowns, which saved his day for fantasy.
Mm.
But, you're looking at
That was QB sneaks, though.
QB sneaks, and you had absolutely nothing in the air. Like, Brian Thomas didn't get much, and he'd been sensational for them. And then as well, like, Evan Engram, he got peppered with targets. Five catches for 45 yards and a 2-point conversion. That was his stat line. Parker Washington, though, led the wide receivers in fantasy points scored. He was a popular pickup, but I'm not sure how much of a role he'll consistently have in this offense.
Yeah, you still roster him, and just because obviously Christian Kirk's out for the year and Brian Thomas is a bit banged up at the moment, so you still roster him, and probably give him another week because it was a pretty tough matchup to a degree. But I think the biggest thing that you didn't mention was the return of Travis Etienne Jr. When he came back and had 3 for 24. So he had 3 carries. I don't know why they gave him 3 carries. It was weird. And, Bigsby came in questionable into the game as well, but he had 8 for 22. So I guess you want to ease Travis Etienne back into it, sure. But if you're going to ease him back into it and give him 3 carries, what's the point of playing him? I know he's probably, let's say, I've looked at his deeper stats. He had, where is he? Travis Etienne. He saw 17 snaps for the game. So I guess you want to get some game reps into him, sure. He did run 12 routes for the game. But yeah, you're giving him 3 carries. What's the point?
Well, there's not much of a point. And let's talk about the running backs because I have a question for you. If you're the coach, if you're Doug Peterson, who are you giving goal line carries to? Are you giving them to Etienne? Are you giving them to Bigsby? Or are you giving them to Dearness Johnson? Who would you give them to?
Well, I'm very biased. I'd go Travis Etienne because he's had the past. But, especially when Etienne's at his best, he's probably a top 10 running back in the league, right?
Yeah.
But I really do like Tank Bigsby as well. I think he's a big power back that can look like he can do it at the highest level too. So it's a tough situation, but I would give it to the best. I personally would give my goal line carries to the better player.
All right. So I suppose you think then, if you're looking at it from a Doug Peterson perspective, that Dearness Johnson's the better player because he got the goal line carries today. Yeah, that's where I was leading with that. Yeah. So two carries, 6 yards. Geez, it's a mess. Doug Peterson should be fired for malpractice. I think it is partially the coaching. Genuinely.
We will get there.
He's out of a job.
Can I mention
that roster
also,
is too? Yeah, no. Let me finish quickly. Sorry, that roster is too good to be to be at 2-7. Like they're at least a borderline playoff team, not competing for first overall.
Yeah, 4 and 5 at the worst.
Yeah.
I do want to mention as well on the other side of things, mate, the reverse hurdle from Saquon today.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen anything like it.
Nah, that was ridiculous.
And to pull it off, obviously you don't see what he's trying to do. Unbelievable. It's what you do in Madden. That's a real Madden sort of play. Truck stick, and then unbelievable. But the Phillies starting to cook, man. They're starting to really cook. 6-2 on the year. But the biggest news of the game is AJ Brown going down with, what was it, a knee injury, I reckon? MCL?
Well, let's see. Knee injury. Oh, what are we looking at here? They don't know the details of the knee injury. He's going for scans. Again, I think it's one of those ones we'll know more overnight. If it's bad, Devonta Smith to the moon.
He's going to miss time.
He's going to miss time. Devonta Smith to the moon.
When's got it back? Can't be too far away.
Probably next week.
That might be a savvy pickup.
Yeah. If he's available, I don't know if he'll be available on waivers because he was pretty hot to start the year.
He was, but depending on what leagues in formats you're playing, he'll be pretty hot to pick up. You'd imagine if there's no AJ Brown, it's Devontae, Saquon, and Goddard. Like Jalen Hurts loves using Goddard, so I think that would be a really solid pickup. It wouldn't cost you much.
And Saquon with 200 yards of offense is ridiculous as well, might I add. Like, the dude's a freak. Absolute freak.
Now, if they go, if they lose 3 or 4 games and Saquon keeps going the way he's going, does he get considered for MVP?
He'd be up there, but it's a one-horse race. I'll keep repeating it. It's Lamar, no one else. I don't think anyone's close to him right now.
Josh Allen?
Nah. I reckon Lamar's had just such a ridiculous, not ridiculous. Well, he's had a very good season, but he's just been more polished than what he was last year when he won the MVP. And I don't think anyone's standing out. How is Josh Allen favorite? Lamar wins it. I tell you now, Lamar wins it.
He's paying $4.20, mate. If you want to make some coin,
there you go. Gamble responsibly or not, up to you. But
I'm over that now. Just fucking do what you want. Just don't lose everything.
Well, leave $1 behind. Now, the Detroit Lions and the Green Bay Packers thought this would be a very close game, but it wasn't really. Like, Jordan Love wasn't really that good. He had 23 of 39 for 273, an interception. He had a 2-point conversion, but he was saved by Emmanuel Wilson somehow having 2 touchdowns on the day, receiving touchdown and a rushing touchdown. Now, I'm not sure how mad I'd be if I was a Josh Jacobs owner, but I think he'd, on a scale of 1 to 10, be a 9.9, I reckon.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure, from memory, I think it was pretty shitty conditions too in this game. But yeah, I agree, mate. Josh Jacobs, I don't know, like maybe Jordan Love should have missed this game. Just rested him because he definitely wasn't his best. Mobility wise, he looked pretty restricted. I don't know.
Did you see his pick 6?
Yeah, pretty bad.
That's one of the worst I've seen for a while.
Pretty bad, yeah. And I was disappointed as well. It wasn't a bad matchup. Well, actually, it was a pretty bad matchup, but I was expecting to see more Tucker Kraft today as well. He only had 4 catches for 34 yards. I was a bit disappointed there because he's been really, really solid for them this year. But yeah, mate, I agree. Josh Jacobs, again, if he has a score onto that bloody stat line, like 7.3 yards per carry is exceptionally good. I think he's had a really, really, really good year, Josh Jacobs. Yards per carry has always been pretty good. His yardage has always been accumulating pretty highly. But he's been lacking in the touchdown department all year. So if he can get a couple more touchdowns going, man, he's going to have some big scores.
Yeah, and that's like, didn't he have his first receiving touchdown in his career earlier a few weeks ago?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like the dude's just unlucky when it comes to scoring touchdowns. He doesn't that outside of that one ridiculous season, he doesn't score many. That's probably a victim of the system he was in for a while. But hopefully that his fortunes flip around because he's been on fire
He
really in the start of the
has.
season.
He
Um,
has. Even like Jaden Reed today was really good, 5 for 113, but didn't have a score. But still a really good game, right?
mm,
Um, but yeah, even like if I'm going to go to the line side of things as well, mate, I was Jared Goff, 145 passing yards. It was okay. One passing touchdown, Amon-Ra St. Brown, fine. I'm still really worried about Sam Laporta moving forward. He doesn't have, and now Jamison Williams comes back next week. I'm still trying to work out what role he has in this team. You can't play him in fantasy at the moment. You can't start him.
he's almost the fifth weapon.
Feels
Like
like it.
you've got Amon Ra, then the two running backs, then Jameson Williams, then Laporta.
Yeah, it feels like it.
Like it's a massive fall from grace from being the only tight end to have stopped Travis Kelce's insanity run of tight end one finishes to now being a forgotten piece in your own team. I
You
don't
can't even
understand how
start
that.
him.
Yeah, no, you can't. I don't understand
Not,
how that changes overnight.
yeah. It's weird, isn't it? It's seriously weird. But all in all, mate, I was hoping this game, looking into the game, like we did our preview on Thursday, I was thinking this could be one of the games of the week, possible shootout. And it was pretty much a bit of a dud of a game, wasn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't great. It wasn't great at all. The next game actually was better. Like the Rams Seahawks
Yeah.
26-22 the Rams in overtime. There was genuinely moments where I thought both sides could run away with it there, particularly um in that fourth quarter it was very back and forth in terms of who would win, who wouldn't. I thought that, you know, if Gino was given half a second more in the pocket, which sounds like a lot, but when he's the only quarterback in the league to have less than 2 yards on average with a clean pocket. Well, time to throw is only 2 yards, less than 2 seconds. He's the only quarterback with that little time. Um, it's going to be hard to manufacture some offense, but he did. He got 363 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns. But the downside of that lack of time in the pocket is that you get 3 interceptions, one of which was a 103-yard pick six to Cameron Kinchens. Uh, so there's that. Jackson Smith and Jigba, in my mind, was undoubtedly.
He's a bad man. He's a bad.
I need to edit that, but the point is, he was undoubtedly the player of the week. The dude had 7 catches for 180 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. He stood up deluxe with no DK Metcalf there. This is what I'd been dreaming of when we drafted Jackson Smith and Jigba. I genuinely thought we had, well, not genuinely thought. I genuinely believe that we did draft like the best receiver in that class. Now Puka Nakua's had the best start to his career, then Rashee Rice, then maybe JSN, unless I've forgotten someone. But talent-wise, Jackson Smith and Jigba is generational.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was finally happy to see him actually truly break out. And mate, this is what I was saying on Thursday. If you listen back into what we were saying on Thursday, I want to see this guy break out. There's no DK. It's time for him to shine. He must have watched the podcast.
That'd be cool if he did.
And he goes, you know what? Maverick's right. Fuck this guy. So, yeah, no, good to see, mate. It really was. And there would have been a lot of managers out there that might have actually, let's have a look at that might have benched him. What do you reckon the percentage was?
I reckon it was
starting?
40-60 start. There you go. 40% started, 60% benched.
That's going to be interesting. I reckon it's going to be less.
Yeah, there you go. In the
It
meantime,
was.
I'll talk about the Rams. Right, you got it?
It's actually a 73% start.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Let's have a look at the Rams. I mean, you have Cooper Cup, who went massive with no Puka Nakua there because Puka Nakua threw a punch. And you throw a punch in the NFL, you're out of here. He finished the game with one catch for 11 yards. He was kicked out after throwing and after Matt Stafford threw interception. I think it was in the second quarter of the game. So nothing for Puka Nakua today. Owners to be devastated because, you're starting him as an alpha wide receiver one on a pretty solid matchup. And that happens. You just
Yeah.
can't throw a punch. Like, I don't know what he was thinking.
It was pretty unlucky, for fantasy owners to start him as well. I have him on my dynasty leagues. I was probably a bit fortunate enough where I've got enough depth there to bench him, and I did. Again, it all depends. Most players were playing. I was lucky enough to bench him because I was worried that, it's the 8:25 game, the later starting game, that he might not play or play unlimited snaps. He had that knee injury on the weekend, I think it was, in training. And then, so I wasn't too excited about all that, to be honest with you. And then he threw a punch and got ejected. So, not great. Speaking about not great, that was also the same with Kyron Williams. He was pretty average. Had a lot of carries, but couldn't do a lot with it. 3.1 yards per carry. And it's weird to say this, but Demarcus Robinson, when there was no Cooper Kupp, Puka Nakua, was an absolute bust. Big bust. And now, since these guys are back, now he started to play. It's a strange game, isn't it?
I mean, you have 6 catches for 94 yards and 2 touchdowns, including a 40-yard touchdown pass for the game winner.
Yeah.
That
would have hurt.
Yeah, unheard of. You turn up when all the big guys are there, and you can't turn up when it's your time to shine. I find that rather odd. You might have to do a bit of the talking. I'm starting to lose my voice a little bit. Thoughts of Tyler Lockett?
Not much. I haven't got much to say about Tyler Lockett, apart from he's lucky he had that one touchdown. Otherwise, retire, please. But yeah, it's going to be his last year anyway. He's done. And then, obviously, Jake Bobo played the DK Metcalf role. And let's be honest, he's not DK Metcalf.
Who is?
No, not many are. But when you can't even get a catch and you're playing the DK Metcalf role, you're not doing it quite well. So
No.
So he's a big bust. But anyway, I think that's enough of that game, mate.
Yeah. So let's look at the primetime game. You've got the Colts and the Vikings. Now, free my boy Anthony Richardson, because seriously, Flacco was worse. I'm going to put it out there. Flacco was worse. Sure, he completed at a slightly higher percentage. Sure, he probably can read an NFL defense slightly better than Anthony Richardson. But Joe Flacco's 40, Anthony Richardson's 22. Anthony Richardson would have thrown for a touchdown or 2 today, just because that's just the way he plays, right? He'll have a big play or 2. Now, it'll be ugly because he'll complete 3 passes outside of that, but they win the game if Richardson's at quarterback. There, I said it.
Well, let's put it this way, mate. I'm going to mention this to you right now. The Colts' next 5 games is the Bills, solid secondary. The Jets, solid secondary. The Lions, not too bad. The Patriots, pretty average. Broncos, very good. Joe Flacco plays in those games unless he's not healthy. They cannot feed Anthony Richardson that. That could kill him.
No, but I hope Joe Flacco knows that probably kills him. He probably he might be that bad where he just has to hang up the boots because he won't get a job.
I mean, he's 40 years old. I don't think he really gives a shit. I think he retired 2 years ago and took him off the couch, but or
Yeah.
last year, should I say?
I
He's
think
in the
he'll
real
be.
back end of his career.
Oh yeah, well, really back end. I think he's got 6 weeks left. There you
Maybe,
go.
maybe this is his last
6 weeks,
year.
and then he's back.
Well, he's going to have to be back. But yeah, you know what I mean. Like you can't feed Anthony Richardson those 5. Well, it's a tough stretch of games, in my opinion. So, but yeah, even saying that, mate, Michael Pittman, this back injury that he's carrying as well is really starting to really like he's nearly waiver wire material sort of stuff at the moment. Would you drop him if you had him? I've got him in a
Yes.
couple of leagues. I'm borderline
I don't think
thinking about it.
I don't think he's far away from injured reserve either. Like,
Well, he was meant to go on there.
yeah, I think someone's just got to wake up and realize it's not the quarterback. You're just injured, mate. Have a stint.
Yeah. Josh
And I think
Downs is probably the number one. He looks really good, but again, he's very limited because of his height too. He's like 5'9", 5'10". So, but if you get him in space, screen plays and everything like that, he looks electric. But he can only do so much.
that's right. And I think on the flip side, Justin Jefferson, man, just comes down with everything that's thrown at him. Everything.
Yeah. He's something, isn't he? And look, 7 for 137. Didn't have his touchdown today, which would have been an absolute mega score if he did have that touchdown. But he just keeps doing it. This is why he's like the number one wide receiver in the league. Exactly the reason why. I was a bit disappointed that Josh Oliver was the guy who was stealing touchdowns off TJ Hawkinson. Maybe Hawkinson was on a bit of a timeshare as such, or not timeshare, but a snap count. So that's interesting. Jordan Addison had a really nice catch in the end zone. I don't know if you saw it, the nice diving catch. That was awesome. He's now looking like he's trying to start being fantasy relevant again to a degree, which is good because this offense is really special when you have Jefferson, Addison, and Hawkinson playing with Aaron Jones as a running back. Like this could be potentially a deep playoff run if Sam Darnold can really just sort out him being really good. Because mate, defensively they're really solid, and offensively they've got the weapons. So, if Sam Darnold can keep doing what he's doing, why can't they have a deep playoff run?
That's exactly right. They've got all the weapons. Sam Darnold's putting up more than competent quarterback play. Ride the hot hand. Ride it out. I think they'll have a deep playoff run, as you say, and who knows? Maybe we could see a Ravens Vikings Super Bowl. That'd be crazy.
I think I'll work on that day if that happens.
Alrighty. Well, that probably does us. I mean, as you've heard, my voice has severely deteriorated in the last 15 minutes or so. I don't
It's
know
that
what's
cowboy
happened.
hat. I know what it
It's
is. It's
just
that
gone.
fucking cowboy hat.
It's just gone. Thanks for listening. We'll be back on Thursday. We'll have a look at week 10. I'm sure we should also probably wrap up the trade deadline on Thursday as well. That'll be interesting. There'll be a lot of fantasy relevant news out of that, I suspect. But yeah, thanks for listening. We'll catch you on Thursday for a bumper show.
They think it amazing.